Today, we're going to talk about how to create ideal buyer personas. I'm also going to live demo a template that all of you are going to be sent after this session. I've created this template because there's so much varying information available online, and very often it's super complex. The first thing to start with is the terminology, like ideal customer profile. So you've got ICP and then you've got buyer personas. And what are the difference? I just want to get the language clarified first. So an ideal customer profile would represent the type of company that is ideal for your business to work with. So you could have lots of different customer profiles of businesses that you could work with. The ideal customer profile is the one that you actually would love to work with. Like, who would you want to work with times 1,000? And then the buyer persona represents the people within the business. It details who would benefit from your service within the company. There's two ways of looking at it. You can map out buyer personas based on the different types of people that buy from you and deal with you. Or you can zoom into who the absolute ideal buyers for you. And there's a real difference. And we're going to go into that in a lot more detail today. There's a real difference between people who can buy from you and the people who ideally would benefit from you best and would be more profitable to your company. The template that you're all going to get if you've registered for this webinar is going to show you what I actually use with my clients that's worked really well. And it's quite simple to use. There's no fluffy, fancy words in there that would be inaccessible to non-marketers or junior to mid-level marketers. It's been developed this way on purpose. It can be really confusing to know how to complete different buyer personas that we download from the internet. So I created it with that in mind. And I'm hoping it's going to bring you a more simple approach to how we do this. I don't want it to seem like I'm just making out that it's super easy and this is the best way to do it, because there's loads of different ways to do it. And if you find one that works for you, I'm not saying don't get more complex than this, but for anyone thinking this is really basic, like it's meant to be, I want it to be simpler so that we can get straight into action mode. So just a quick stat to start with. Organizations with a strong ideal client persona achieve 68% higher account win rates. This comes from HubSpot. And I think that will be down to having the confidence within your market to really say who it is that you work for and building your positioning and messaging around them and not being frightened to not necessarily alienate others, but not being frightened to hang your hat to one particular type of person or company. Because really, when we try to appeal to everyone, we actually appeal often to no one. And so that's really important to keep in mind. If your company is trying to get you to say, we can deal with everyone, we can deal with large corporates all the way through to small businesses, that sometimes can work. But in general, we want to be making sure that we are telling the absolute ideal people why we're the best option for them. And so just a quote from Gartner as well. And this is relevant to what we're going to talk about today. The typical buying group for a company for a complex B2B solution involves 6 to 10 decision makers. And each of them will come armed with 4 or 5 pieces of information that they have gathered independently. They then come together with all that information and they need to deconflict within that group. So if you imagine 10 people in a room, 50 pieces of information coming together, varying needs, varying frustrations, varying pain points. Some will want this solution to go ahead more than others. Others won't want the pain of change. We need to create our buyer personas around each of the people within our own company's buying group, often selecting the most important ones, because I'm not going to sit here and suggest that you create 10 different personas when really you probably could group a couple of them together and just slightly tweak your messaging to some of them. I'm not saying you need to do that, but I think it's worth keeping that in mind, that we're not just saying, here's what we do, we're a company who has that, and here's some testimonials and here's some case studies of work we've done in the past. Actually, we need to be talking to them about the pain points and the problems they face when they're going through the buying process together as a group. Here's some things for us to get in our minds and think about before we dive into the template demo to create your ideal buyer persona. A really interesting stat also from Gartner. Sorry, guys, I'm a Gartner super fan. 77% of B2B buyers state that their last purchase was very difficult. And this is super interesting because often buyer confusion can lead to the B2B version of cart abandoned. People often feel so much pain that's associated with making a big change in the company that they just decide, do you know what, we're not going to change at all. Let's just stick with what we've been doing because it's too difficult. That means that our role as marketers is to help them make a decision, and hopefully it will be us. The other thing to consider in today's world is that our buyers' options are expanding. It's not just us and our market category that they can choose. A great example of this could be, recently I was picking a solicitor because I'm moving house. Obviously this is a B2C example, but it's similar. And my choices were the local high street solicitor firms that I was recommended by my estate agent, which were fine and I'd usually go for, but I was recommended by some friends, a really amazing online solicitor who have an app, who made the process easier, and we happened to go with them. And so it's really about recognizing that the way that buyers used to buy and the options available to them in the past is a lot different. We have to be aware of their options and the fact that this brings an additional amount of confusion and complexity to how they buy. Because if it used to be that you only really had the options in front of you, 3 or 4 companies who are local to you because you'd have to have meetings with them, but now the whole world has opened up. If you're a company looking for an accountant's firm to handle your accounts, then you used to probably only look for the person who was nearby down the street because you could meet up. Now you could be with a software company in the US because it's all automated. You don't actually need to deal with someone other than every now and then. And so our options are growing, and options growing doesn't always mean easier. Options growing means harder. And so why does this matter? What has this got to do with creating ideal client personas? Well, if it's difficult to buy, then our job is to make it easier. And really, how can you make someone's job and life easier if you don't understand them? So really creating ideal client personas, buyer personas, whatever you want to call it, is about understanding them better, understanding these people better, so that you're able to better connect your marketing and its messaging with what they actually care about, rather than just generically talking about your service, your solution, what it is you do, because everyone can say what they do. And now why this is a really good thing is that most B2B companies don't do this very well, which means that your company has a very good opportunity to do it well, which will automatically give you stand out. So you don't actually have to be better than your competitors at what you actually do. You just have to be better at talking about the challenges your customer faces and why you're well placed to solve them. Sometimes that's all it takes. And so where are we going wrong with B2B buyer personas? From my experience, from my observation, consulting with hundreds of businesses over the year, my observations tell me that we focus too much on who we can sell to, not who we want to sell to. Because when you ask a company director who could buy your product, it feels like if we say, well, anyone could buy this, any size business, huge companies could buy this, tiny companies could buy this, all different sectors could buy this. It feels like that opens the market to you, but it actually doesn't. It doesn't open the market at all. It slims it. And the reason why is that if you say we can sell to everyone, again, the example of, and it's not always limited to this, but this idea of we can sell to everyone, is that it doesn't appeal to anyone, because you're not able to then pin your hat to any one group of people's direct problems and needs. If you say we serve large global enterprise companies and small, medium businesses through to micro organizations across all sectors, you physically won't be able to, in your market messaging, with that brand positioning, with that positioning kind of approach, it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to clearly state and resonate with the different needs of those two groups who are so separate from one another. Look, I'm not saying there aren't companies who can. Of course, if you have the resources to be able to absolutely smash it with completely separate messages underneath a hierarchy of positioning, then yeah, but ultimately you're not going to grab the attention of anybody if you just say we can help everybody. And if you think of a clothing brand, I'm a mid-30s woman I don't want a brand who says we make cool clothes for everybody from teenagers through to older women. I want somebody who's going to say, hey, we style mid-30s mums look cool without trying to be down with the kids. It's like, yeah, that's me. We need to find ways to resonate with these people. And so the other thing that we're doing wrong when it comes to B2B buyer personas is we're including things that don't matter. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't include things like demographics and other typical things in buyer personas, but I've just never got on with them. And today I'm demoing what I use with my clients for you to steal if you want to. I'm just saying that it hasn't worked for me, all these different typical sections that you find in buyer personas. I've just found myself thinking, why are we filling this in? So if you're feeling the same when you've seen profiles in the past, persona templates, then this is going to be really useful for you. Sometimes it is just that it's not a great model for how you want to do stuff. The other thing is lack of brand positioning. So when it comes to buyer personas, it's all very well putting down who they are, what they care about. But if your personas are lacking real evidence-to pain points, and then your marketing messaging and ultimately your brand positioning is not tapping into that. And what I mean by brand positioning is, here is why we would be the better option for you over the other options available. And there are always options available if you're directors, or if you believe that there are no other options and you've got no competitors because you're unique. It absolutely isn't the case. There will always be another option. Another option can be do nothing and don't invest in change, just keep doing what we've done. And that's where the role of education comes in marketing. And lack of brand positioning is, we could understand behind the scenes our buyer personas pretty well. Our sales team might have a really good grasp on them. But if we're not getting across in our brand positioning directly, hey, you've got these pain points and here's directly how we would help you, then you're kind of not bringing your buyer personas to life in a sense. And I have got some content on my YouTube channel about brand positioning, the importance of it. Also aiming for entirely separate messages. Sometimes companies I'm consulting with will say in my strategy calls, hey, so we've got these 10 different audiences and 10 different roles within the company, and we've really got to make sure we're targeting all of them individually. Now, I'm a big fan of finding mutually beneficial messaging. There will be something that the operations manager and the finance manager within the company you're targeting will care about. That will also, to a perhaps lesser degree, matter to, let's say, the CEO. So it's about finding commonalities in the audiences that you're targeting within a company, so that you can make sure that you're generally hitting on their points to varying degrees, and then you can amplify those. If you were doing a campaign direct to a CEO, you could amplify the points that matter to that person and then turn them down for the operations manager or the other person, like not trying to have an entirely different marketing strategy for every audience, because it can be really unrealistic, especially for the type of companies I speak to. And I'm guessing if you're here today, it's because resources are not huge. And then the biggest one is worrying that you'll turn people away. The biggest thing that I get from people when I say that you need to pin your hat to an ideal person, an ideal audience. Oh yeah, but what if we turn away someone that we could work with? You know, in my business, I talk about one-person marketing teams, undervalued marketing managers, CEOs who haven't got the right level of budget for their marketing, and how I close the gap in those type of companies. And typically the companies I help are about 5 to 20 million in turnover, 100 plus heads. But that's the message I put out. That doesn't mean that people don't come to me who are perhaps startup founders, who are perhaps bigger than that, who are perhaps, you know, a 2-person band. It's not to say I can't work with them. They're not who I'm targeting, but they can still come in the door. It's really about aiming our messaging to, you know, when you're in a room with someone and their eyes light up when you mention a pain point they're going through and how you would help solve it. We're aiming to do that through our marketing. And then anyone else who comes in the door alongside that, fine, that's no problem. Okay, how do we do it? So in order to work out who is our ideal client, what type of questions and data can we dig into that already exists? How can we keep things simple? If you are a marketer yourself and you've got directors who are struggling to come to terms with the idea of you wanting it to be an ideal client that you build your brand messaging around, here's some simple questions that you can think about. Having a look at the data within your company. Who is the most profitable group of companies in your business? Maybe you work with the finance team to say, hey, could you show us over the last 3 years the most profitable accounts that we've had? And this will rely on the fact that your business is able to track resource allocation with accounts. So that's something really good to raise with your company, is like a lot of clients I've consulted in the past, they have brought in resource data. So they've started to understand, on this client, why are we having problems with them? We're delivering far more than we quoted them for. We're going above and beyond too much, and that's not very profitable for us. Really understanding who is the most profitable for you. And then also, who's the less hassle? Who just gets on with your business swimmingly? Who's a joy to work with? Who doesn't need to push you to your limits of knowledge? Are there commonalities between these types of companies? Once you start to find out, you can ask your directors, like, tell me our top 10 best companies that we love working with, that are just a breeze, they're super easy, they're brilliant, they get us, they're not a pain. Easiest to win, who is more of a joy to go through the process with, of selling to, who doesn't have to go through a big, huge tender process or bid management process where everyone's just like, oh, not another one. Really asking these questions to your directors or yourself, if you're in charge of this stuff, is a good way to find out who your ideal client is. Because sometimes companies think our ideal client is the biggest available. So the company that's got like the big enterprise business and has got loads of work and the average deal is 200,000 a year, whatever. But if they're really hard to win and your competitors are just simply better and bigger at working with that type of company, it could be that your strategy is, okay, why don't we go for a middle ground type of size business where they're getting a really bad service from our huge competitors, and then position ourselves as, you know what, we care about you a lot more. And they're kind of like the low hanging fruit. So your sales strategy would be, hey, come over here, you're not getting a great service, we're going to really care about you and take the time to understand you better. And so that's another one to think about. Best fit for our team, you know, what experience do our experienced professionals have? And then also the last one, I don't want this to sound too fluffy or brandy because I hate using jargon, but like, matches your values. And I mean that in the sense of like matching our values in the sense of like how we like to do things. Do they send aggressive emails if you haven't reached a deadline for them? Or do they send a friendly reminder like, hey, I've noticed I haven't had that report, it's been a couple of days, is there any update on when it's going to be? You know, that type of thing of like, how do we interact with each other and what type of clients do we want to work with? When you think about anxiety and depression in the workplace, a lot of that is linked on how people are treated by the customers they deal with. So let's say you've got a team of 10, I don't know, project managers, and the clients they're working with are treating them really badly and never thanking them for anything they do, and just are really demoralizing. That will affect the productivity and mindset of your team. Someone could say, hey, I can't do this, I'm resigning, or my doctor said that I need some time, I've got anxiety and depression right now, it's too difficult. It's like really thinking about these things. What type of companies have we worked with that have been a joy to work with and value us, rather than pushing us to do things that aren't the right fit? And so I'm now going to demonstrate that template. I've called it the B2B ideal buyer persona, because it's somewhere between ideal client persona, which is the type of business we would want to work with, and the actual buyer. So you can create buyer personas for all different buyers within an organization that's based on who you actually work with rather than your ideal buyer. But I suggest starting with ideal and then building out. So really you'd have an ideal buyer persona is one bucket of people. And then you might want to branch out to 2 or 3 in cases like people who are not your ideal, but they're still very important bread and butter work, and you would want to jump into that, but you would use the same template as this. I've used a made-up company that they're called Inspire Engagement. And when you get the templates, if you've registered for this webinar, you'll get this template. If you're listening in the future to the podcast, then you can just register for my webinar in the past and you will get this sent to you as well. This company sells programs that help large organizations run engagement strategies. So let's imagine they're an employee engagement partner. If you've got a huge business and they're struggling with people being engaged in the vision and mission of the company, they would come up with really cool creative ideas and campaigns and programs to get people bought in. I've completed the templates as if this is them so that you can see how it could work for your company. First thing I've started with is looking at who would be the person. So for this company, their ideal person is not just a head of HR, because you could just say, we want head of HRs. Actually, it's an open-minded head of HR, someone who is not too process driven and dull and boring, but an open-minded creative HR who works at a company, the notes I've put in the template, 1,500 plus employees, and works as head of HR team. More than 50K to spend per year with Inspire Engagement on their services and offering, but ideally around 80K. They don't have a massive team, meaning it doesn't take ages for things to be signed off. They're in charge of their department and have been given budgets to work with throughout the year. Inspire Engagement want to attract those who have an active employee engagement strategy and are able to get buy-in from above. So again, that no hassle client. So they've got the right number of employees, they're open-minded, they're creative, they're keen to do something that will excite employees. These guys don't want clients who are like, oh, hi, we need a training program for our clients so that they get engaged with us. They want them to be creative and excited about doing something really cool and really interesting to their employees. They're knowledgeable about how people development programs work. So they want to attract people who already get it, like they get how this would run. So they're not just constantly educating. They have a budget and are transparent with it. So it's not like, oh, could you go away and do a quote and then we'll weigh it up. It's like, hey, this is our budget. This is what we want to do. So they're enlightened as well. They want to work with a partner who they trust and who already knows their brand well and can take a brief and roll with it. They know they won't have to invest loads of time and they know it'll get done. So we're not just saying, here's the number of employees, here's the sector. It's really going into detail on the type of company and person and culture and setup that would work best for Inspire Engagement. That's the first thing I do is, and this is just like, I'm not saying this is amazing or perfect. This is just literally what I do with my clients, if it helps you. And then next I would go into an ideal project. Like that could be a nice one for you to do, is ideal project. And so for this company, an ideal project would be a bespoke, creative employee engagement program to sit as part of a wider retention strategy for the business. The HR team have developed a very clear brief, meaning they're not going to be a big hassle or going to need loads of education. And they have a purpose for the project. They're able to articulate what they need clearly and identify how it's going to be used to drive change within the company, meaning Inspire Engagement aren't going to risk creating a strategy that never gets off the ground. Because as creatives, this team want to see their work go to good use. They want to see the work actually happen. And in your company, you probably feel the same. You don't want to take on clients, give them all your incredible ideas and strategies and solutions, and then all they do is go, oh, thanks for that, and don't actually do anything. It's really can be really unfulfilling. So this company, this project means they're open to creative ideas and direction, but they're clear on the objectives of the work. For the project, they would trust and understand the process, appreciate the process, and use it to their advantage to help move the project along when dealing with superiors. So that for them is an ideal project. All you need to do in this section is describe, and you can spend time with your sales departments if needed. What is the perfect project for us and how does it run and what are the key facets to it? And then I also like to do a bit of like a banding on project fees, because if we just said, oh, we only want deals at 50K a year, like just going for the absolute optimum ideal, is not always realistic. So for this particular company, an ideal project could be 100,000 a year investment as an employee engagement program, but they're not going to not target themselves on getting, say, some bronze 50K deals if they did it like that. So maybe for them, a bronze account is 50K spend a year, a silver account is 80K a year spend, and a gold account is 150K a year plus spend. One of the things that we do in my strategy calls is link the sales strategy with the number of accounts they want to be winning per category. For example, they might say, well, we want to win 20 bronze accounts, 30 silver accounts, because 30 is the ideal place we can position, so it's going to be the most. And then we would like to win 5 gold. We really couldn't win more than that because we wouldn't be resourced to deliver and those are harder to come by. That can be a really nice exercise with your directors as well, or your senior team. For this example, the company knows that not every project will be gold and they couldn't manage that. And it takes up too much business development time and resource. And silver are the sweet spot for them. This is what they will build their positioning and strategy around attracting. This is connected with their ideal client persona. And bronze are great bread and butter jobs that are very easy for them to deliver. Super easy, super quick and cheap for them to do, but they don't want to attract too many, or they don't want to attract anything less than that 50k because the economies of scale mean that they don't really add much value and it's not very profitable to them. But that's not to say that if a 30k opportunity came in the door, they would say, oh, absolutely not. It's just that that's what they're targeting on. And so really targeting ourselves on things is different than what actually comes in and then assessing that and looking at the data and tweaking. I've got clients who, let's say they did exactly this. And then at the end of the year, we look at the data and say, okay, from our marketing strategy, we actually got 50 bronze and 20 silver and 7 gold. Doesn't matter. We reached the sales target. We're not going to go, oh no, we got the wrong projects. You're not going to do that. But you'll learn from that data and go, oh, maybe it is that bronze are better for us because they are easier to win and they're a doddle for our team. And let's try and upsell some of those to silver this year because we showed them return. Julia says, this is making me realize how much information I'm missing in order to make good marketing decisions. I'm so pleased that it's useful so far, Julia, and don't beat yourself up about what's missing. I've been there and it's tough in B2B marketing. We've got a lot to do. So thank you for that comment. Okay. So when you get to the template I'm going to be sending you, I've put some like key points as to what I track within an ideal buyer persona. And so you can use this across all buyer personas. I'm just using the example of ideal buyer persona today. And there's a bit of a difference, as I explained earlier. And so I just think they're more down to earth. We've got get a photo of the person. This is in Canva, and I really recommend using Canva. There is a free version, so if you don't have it already, get it, because it's just so nice. You've got access to different images and stuff. So I like to pick a picture of a person that just looks like the person that I'm envisaging when I'm thinking about that person. It sounds a bit fluffy sometimes, but it does just help you, especially when you're a marketer. It helps you to really think about that person in your mind when you're creating content. So like, would Julia care about this? Genuinely, would she care? And you can build it around real people. My buyer personas are genuinely, there's 2 of them, and it's a real CEO that I work with and a real B2B marketer that I actually work with. I've got their photo in there and I've got their actual details because it just helps me. I'm like, would that person find this useful? Yes, do it. Okay, so we've got Julia, 36, is a head of HR within a large manufacturing business. And again, remember, this is for Inspire Engagement, the sample company. She works hybrid from home, between home in Watford and visiting the HQ in Slough 3 days a week, because all manufacturing businesses have headquarters in Slough for whatever reason. So yeah, the company she works for. So I've got if anyone's listening on the podcast in the future, just for you to know what we're looking at, we've got a picture of the person, we've got home life, education and social life. And then in the main bulk, we've got a bit of an overview of the person. We've got company info, a bit about her role, personality attributes, budget and project, pain points, and then needs. And that's all I cover. Company info, we're saying that there's 2,100 employees and the annual turnover is 500 million. They manufacture snack food products. I picked snack food products for this made up example because they're obviously making business to consumer type products, which means they're going to value brand quite well for a B2B. And so they're likely to want their employees more engaged. This would sound like the type of ideal client for Inspire engagement. Julia's role, she reports to the Chief People Officer called Leanne, manages a team of 6, responsible for overseeing all personnel related matters and culture development. Her personality attributes: she's highly organized, able to manage multiple projects at once. She's patient to report to, as well as thoughtful and a great problem solver. She doesn't like inefficiency. Now, this is not fluffy stuff. This, again, is about that values match. This company will want patient people who are thoughtful and good problem solvers. There's no coincidence that these are in here. And she doesn't like inefficiency. Well, great, because the company we're talking about, they actually want to work with companies that want to get on with it and are process driven. In terms of her budget and her projects, her annual HR budget is 1.4 million. That's £600 per employee head. And for that, she needs to include employee perks, benefits, training, payroll costs, recruitment, advertising, and legal fees. She is able to allocate out of that budget 450k to training and development. That would tell us that because Inspire Engagement's ideal project is about 80k, it wouldn't be unrealistic for her to allocate 80k to that out of her 450k training budget. So it's not the entirety of her budget. So she's not going to be too scared to do it. Okay, these are her pain points. It's not only about what this company provides. What are her pain points? Employee engagement and talent acquisition are high up on her agenda. She struggles to get the board to invest appropriately in keeping talent in the business, since there are other local employers who are aggressive in their recruitment strategies. She needs to keep people in her business. She's also concerned about ensuring management across all departments are equipped to handle varying workplace scenarios, such as mental health, awareness, diversity, and keeping their teams engaged with the overall vision for the business. I want to work in this company. She sounds awesome. Her daily headaches centre around ensuring the business doesn't end up with a legal claim and keeping accidents and deaths prevented as far as possible. By us understanding her overall pain points, we can then connect with our content strategy, our marketing planning. Which ones within that do we directly help with? And how can we talk in that language to really resonate with her? What needs does she have? She wants to work with partners she knows, likes, and trusts, since it's a real headache to find new partners and brief them all over again. She needs creative ideas and solutions to help her deliver her strategic plan and achieve the objectives that she has overall. She needs friendly people. She's got good values and likes to build a good relationship with partners. So how can you go about finding out about these pain points? Because it's really hard to... Some of the things that I get, and one of the questions I actually received by email for someone who can't make it, is that they were like, the business is kind of stopping me from accessing customers and they're keeping me away from customers. And so I really can't get what I need. And so that is really problematic. If a marketing team is not being given the insights they need in order to serve the right marketing message, that business is actually stopping themselves from getting results. It's insane. So we need to really educate and change that. Now, a good way, there's a few ways to get insights. You can understand pain points of your ideal client is to conduct insight interviews in order to get insights. Dumb language, Jade. Conduct insight interviews to get insights. Wow, I should be a copywriter. So hire a specialist if you don't have this experience yourself, because the questions asked are really specific. And I am thinking of doing a workshop on this. If anyone would be interested, I can share the questions that I ask when I do them. But again, if you can't do that, or if you can't hire a specialist to do it for you, you can always talk to your customer facing teams and also attend sales meetings or listen in on sales calls and start to get clues. That's really important. So maybe you want to have like 15 to 20 interviews conducted. Pick ideal clients, not just anyone. They're going to last about 20 minutes and the questions will be around pain points, frustrations with the market and why they chose you. So for example, you could say, tell us what frustrates you about companies within our sector. Tell me about a bad experience you've had in the past working with a company like ours. How do you define a great service with a company like ours? Why did you choose us? Why do you like working with us? What do you think we do better than others? Because you're trying to find out what's good about you. It's not a feedback survey. It's why are we great? And so really finding out about their challenges. Tell me about your day-to-day job. What do you find difficult? What's high on your agenda? And yeah, work out from those insights. And then you can use those insights to work out why your business is best placed to help. And so lastly, remember that the journey is not linear. So make sure that you are registered for my next webinar, which is on the 15th of March, where we're going to literally jump into that. Once you've got buyer personas, what journey should you take them on? And remember that it's not linear. It's not just like send email campaign, invite to webinar, joins webinar, ready to buy. It's very like multi-touch points. Develop your brand positioning and messaging. Brand positioning is the single most under-discussed element of B2B marketing, and arguably the most important. It's why most marketing techniques don't work. People miss it completely. It's because we're unable to articulate, here's why you should pick us, not the other options. We usually say the same thing as the others. So everyone in the market is just saying the same thing, and then people buy on price alone. Brand positioning overcomes that. And then importantly, develop a marketing activity plan and contact strategy. So, okay, we've got these people, we know who these people are. What are we going to say to them? What content are we going to put out, and what marketing activity we're going to put out in order to reach them, engage them, get their data, add them to our systems, get them into a pipeline, and ultimately get them to be customers. If you want to watch my last webinar replay, that's talking about how to create a B2B marketing plan. So that's on my YouTube channel as well, or through the link in any of my bios across TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. You can find them everywhere. And while you're giving me your questions, I'm just going to pick up the ones that I was sent by email. Okay. I've got one here from someone who wanted to remain anonymous, which I completely understand. So this person is finding that the persona profiles they've been given to work with at their company are very loose and don't speak to the actual pain points of their target person's day-to-day. I've heard lots of advice around best practice being conducting customer surveys, etc. But this is really something that I can action, because this responsibility falls to the product marketing team and it doesn't get prioritized. This often leaves myself and Google trying to fill in the gaps and understand what these professionals care about. What I'm trying to find is their real pain points. How can I fill some of the insight gaps myself? I'm thinking of questions like, what's the consequence of if the prospect doesn't use my product, etc. If real feedback isn't accessible, what's the next best way to research pain points? Okay, this is a really interesting question, and one that I'm probably going to answer in a way that isn't actually wanted. I think we have to step back sometimes and look at the bigger issue in the organization and actually find a way to get it across to the business that it is damaging for the business to not enable marketing to get the insights they need. I can give you suggestions on how to gather insights without dealing with the end person. You can go on things like Answer the Public and type in something similar to what you sell or an issue that someone might be facing. It'll show common terms that are searched so that you could work out what people are talking about. You could even go on Reddit and see if anything comes up in line with like discussion threads for your end buyers where they're struggling with a problem. And that's a little bit woolly, but that does exist. You can find different online communities where you've got people who are talking about these challenges and giving each other advice. But nothing beats getting insight from your customer. You can do those things. You can research on Google like you're already doing, but I would make it your mission to go to the business and create a bit of a business case for why they do need to take this seriously and why you're unable to effectively do your job without these insights, because it is business critical for you to know those answers. And so I think if you can create a business case, you'll be able to use real evidence data that you've researched as to how this is holding you back. The stat from HubSpot, businesses that know and understand their ideal clients are 68% more likely to win work. Finding those different stats and really using it for your experience to find ways to educate. I was in corporate marketing. I would say 60% of my job was internal education, creating business cases for investment, not giving up. And actually, yes, we don't want to be pushing beyond the point of no return where we're actually getting ourselves in trouble. But I would say, look, if they won't enable you to do your job with those insights, all you can do is do what you have with what you've got. But the secondary one is just ask if you can spend some, you don't even have to say like, I need insights. You just say, I'd really like to understand our customers better. Could I attend a few meetings with our sales team? I'd really like to understand the customers better. So you can be making notes and stuff and hear what they're talking about and what they care about. That can be a really good one. Or as simple as hopping on the phones. Rachel had said, we've been having this problem with one of our directors. We want to build a target audience for a course. He wants it to be for everyone. Yeah, you won't sell your course particularly well if it's not geared around one ideal person. And also like on your course landing page, you're going to want to be really like, here's who it's for, here's who it's not for. I'm producing a marketing course at the moment, and it is going to be like, it's not for you if you already have extremely established marketing processes and you understand inside out how to create a marketing strategy, or it's not you if you're looking for quick wins. It needs to be about the pain points you're going to help with. And just a point on ideal clients. You don't have to make it about a particular sector or a particular company size. You can find out commonalities between your ideal clients. It's like a challenge they might be struggling with. So for example, in my brand positioning, I don't talk about a size of company. I talk about the problem that company would be facing, which typically is connected more than often with 100+ employees. But that's not to say it doesn't occur in sectors that I didn't think it usually would occur in, or slightly smaller businesses. And so Annie says, they always do this, Rachel. I once worked with a personal injury group who thought it was everyone because anyone can get hurt. Yeah, absolutely. But with that type of business, they will be stronger in certain areas than others. And so they have to find out who is that group of people who are more likely to be a good match for their particular business. Sandra says, experiencing the same thing along with no strategy for sales, just go after everyone. This is not a very good use of resources either, because you could find yourself in business development processes and putting things into the sales pipeline that take a lot of effort and a lot of education that won't actually lead to good conversion rates. Whereas if you can build your sales strategy around targeting companies that would be more likely to work with you, that you have more evidenced delivery of past experience with, you're going to be better set up. Rachel again says, agree, Julia, I've started a course and I feel like everything's B2C focused. So Toby's question, Toby says, what's the benefit of going into detail on persona/social life in the persona profiles? How might it influence your marketing output and decisions? Yeah, Toby, let's go back to that, because I didn't actually read out those elements, did I? So in the illustrated by a persona, I've got home life. Julia lives in a 4-bed detached house in Watford with her long-term partner. They moved there in 2015 after meeting in London, where she worked during her 20s. They moved to settle down and have a dog. Education, she's got an MSc in Human Resource Management, Lancaster University, and she also has a CIPD certificate in personnel development. And her social life is she loves morning yoga, lunch with friends, and attending cultural events in the city on the weekends. She's really close to her family. I would say, Toby, that this is the woolliest part of the persona. So this is the part that, if any, is not as important. Why I have it in there is I like to be able to picture a real person. That's the only reason I have it there, is so that I can picture who is this person. So like, when I'm segmenting from, let's say, my email marketing, I know that my marketer side of the database are usually early 20s, and they might be living a fun social life, and they maybe have an apartment with a friend or a boyfriend or girlfriend or partner. And, you know, their life, I picture their life. They don't have kids yet, perhaps. But then when I've got my CEO side of the database, I'm picturing, okay, they've got an expensive gym and health club membership. They drive a fancier car. They have their own house. They've got a family. They've got all those pressures. And so when I'm messaging them, when I'm sending emails to them, I'm picturing all those things as to how that would impact how they receive messages from me. Because it's like, I know that marketers have more time available in general sense. Like, they might be more willing to join an evening webinar or have a session on something in the evening specifically about marketing in detail. Whereas a CEO, they usually, in my database, those guys prefer just to be sent like a downloadable guide they can go through, or they prefer to have an article sent and they can skim read, or actually they prefer an email that just summarizes key points. Whereas marketers, in my experience, have enjoyed these meatier workshops that we do And so, yeah, it's kind of like, it just helps you picture that person, what stage of life they're at, so that when you're communicating them, are picturing the human element of them. But yeah, I might influence I hope that helps. Rachel says, how do you manage to market to two different client personas? They actually overlap in terms of similar interests, but spending power is miles apart. Okay, so for example, government organizations versus financial services. Okay, this is where the role of brand positioning is super important. We need to have our brand positioning that's like, here is why our business is best set up in a general sense to meet the needs of our customers over the other options available. And then you have a messaging hierarchy that would go down into those different segments. So what you want to do is map out what's most important to those two different people. So think of them as people. Who are the people within the government organization? Who are the people within the financial services sector? Map out what they care about and then just amplify the relevant message. Now, there are super complex ways to dive into all of this, but I really like to keep this stuff down to earth. And so this is just like a more simplistic approach to not having this hugely different, vast messaging, because like you said, they actually overlap in terms of similar interests, but spending power is miles apart. So in terms of spending power, it might be that if you're marketing to someone who hasn't got big spending power and they have to seek the power above to get budget spend and sign off, maybe your marketing job is to provide them with the materials that would help them to educate the people above them and help them build a case. So that's exactly like what I do with my marketing. When I'm dealing with marketers, I enable them to help their CEOs and directors see that they need higher investment in their marketing to get results. But when I'm dealing with a CEO who already has that power, my message is different. It's here's how to, I'll educate them on increasing their spend on marketing in general or on different things. So it's really similar, but it's really about what you're communicating in line with what's going to more than likely lead them to be able to make a choice that you'd be the best option for them. I hope that makes sense. In the meantime, check out my podcast. It's got tons of different interesting episodes that you can listen to. So it's the B2B Marketing Gap podcast. You can find it in all my links. I'm just going to answer Bernard's question and wait for any other questions to come through. Bernard says, how do you balance working in a marketing sales role? Amber, if you're still here, I would love for you to write in chat how you do this, because I know, Amber, that you're responsible for sales and marketing, which is a heck of a role. So I would say that it depends really on the focus of your organization. If you're a marketing-led company, brilliant. And that's really what we want to be aiming for, because marketing will always be able to guide the strategy so that we are attracting in ideal fit clients and then nurturing them well. I would say that this is a role that's bound to be challenging if it's not resourced correctly. So one person, unless you're me, like my business is me, I'm a marketing consultancy business, I'm in charge of finance, sales, events, marketing, everything. Unless you're a tiny business or a super startup and you have to be thrifty, it's not that realistic to do this role unless you have like business development people reporting to you and enough resource and investment to outsource the relevant elements of your marketing plan. So it's going to be, how do you balance it? It's going to be with great difficulty if you don't have the resources needed. Amber, thank you so much. Amber says, so Amber is responsible for sales and marketing at a really cool company in London who provide SEO solutions to companies, to B2B companies. She says, I try to underpin the sales strategy with the marketing strategy, using it to inform who we pitch for and how we pitch them, and to fend off dodgy director decisions. Cool. Love that, Amber. Thanks so much for chucking that in there. So Bernard, I hope that's useful. We could go into more detail at another time. I've never been responsible for both functions. No, you also asked me that. I've worked closely and led sales, but I haven't been responsible for both. And the way that it can work, it can be a really good thing for them to be so connected that you're responsible for both. but there's always going to be one area of specialism. If you're from a sales background, you'll need to make sure that you fill any gaps where you don't have marketing knowledge or skills with external consultants and partners. And on the contrary, if you don't have any sales experience, it would be about looking at who could you get to be doing that sales side, or if it's more enabling the directors to have more meetings. I think it's really about looking at the overall vision and mission for the company. So where do we need to get to? What's the vision for the business? Literally, where do we see ourselves in the future, and what stands in our way, and what role will sales and marketing contribute to that? And then breaking that down into a plan as to what will each function do and how will we bring that together. But from what I understand of your situation, Bernard, I think that you're on to a bit of an impossible challenge unless you get the correct marketing allocated budget, the correct sales system set up, and that takes investment at the start in order to get those things set up. So I hope that's useful. Thanks everyone for being here today. I really hope I'll see you at the next ones. And if anyone else feels like they really do need some additional support, you can. I'm pushing myself because I don't have that many slots available anyway for clients. But if you are really struggling and you could do with some motivation and some help in your marketing planning and your completing this persona, as well as any other areas of marketing, you can always book in for a one-to-one with me. There's more information on my website, tambinimarketing.co.uk, and you can have a little look around at the services, and you can book in on the contact section if you need any extra support. But I really aim to help as many people as I can without them ever having to pay me a single penny. My mission is to help B2B marketers get results from what they're doing. So if you have any topic suggestions, you can hop on to my TikTok and just ask me some questions or tell me what you want to hear, or you can drop me an inbox on LinkedIn or on Instagram. So guys, thanks so much for being here. I will see you next time, and yeah, see you again. Bye.